Today we're coming at you from Sin Shay's Restaurant in Huntsville, Alabama, also known as Shay's Express. And welcome. I'm so excited for you to be here with us today as we talk about our topic. If you missed our premiere, this is Simply Single, a talk show where we discuss issues that singles face from a Christian perspective. And I want to introduce you to my friends who are here to talk with me today. Starting on my left, on the very end is Mindy, and then we have Angel, and then Dominique, or Dom, as we like to call her. And lastly, we have Ruth. And we have a great topic to talk about. But as usual, we're going to start by throwing it out to the street and finding out what others think about. Is acceptance and resignation the same thing?
Okay. First of all, I think that resignation is like the very sad and angry twin of acceptance. But I don't know that I would look at being single in terms of being either accepting or resigned. I think that it's something you just embrace.
Acceptance is, accepting something, agreeing to be a part of, a resignation, and you put an end to it.
I think that people are single now more because they accept it, because I feel like everyone wants to have fun or the freedom to do whatever they want to do.
After my divorce, I stayed single for 12 years. So I guess that would be resignation, because I lost hope that marriage could be a happily ever after.
When you think about whether or not you're going to be single or in a relationship, the first thing you need to think about, in my opinion, is whether or not you can embrace whatever you are. Because I think that if you embrace the station that you are in life, you'll be happy regardless.
Okay. So, is acceptance and resignation the same thing? You've heard what people out in the street think. And let me tell you how this came up. I wrote an ebook called Nobody Ever Told Me I Might Not Get Married, One Woman's Journey to Acceptance. And I've gotten a couple of different reactions. I've gotten one reaction where they love the title and they think it's cute and they think it's funny and they think it's appropriate. And then another reaction where people are sad. The title makes them sad. So I began to think, are they sad because they are interpreting acceptance as resignation? Or, why would that title make people sad? So, is acceptance and resignation the same thing? To accept being single and resign to being single the same? What do you think? What does it look like to you?
Just because I'm older?
No, you're older, and we already know, Ruth, that you are very passionate.
Yes, so.
What do you think?
Well, it's not the same thing, because acceptance is accepting. I think it has to do a lot with my spiritual life.
Okay.
If I trust in God, I will accept my situation without resistance.
Okay.
Because I know who He is. He is my Father. He loves me. He wants the best for me. He knows what He's doing. Therefore, I will accept the situation, even if I don't like how long it takes, but I accept it. But resignation is, though I don't like it, I have to accept, quote unquote, accept the situation.
You have to.
I have to.
So you have no choice.
I don't have a choice.
Or it's inevitable.
Well, I think I don't have choice.
Okay.
I decide that, because then my attitude will change. I will be kind of protesting all the time. I'll be like angry with the world, and then instead invite people to my life, I will repel them, because who wants to be with an angry person, somebody who is like something is missing,
Okay. I don't know. I think most people think of resignation as quitting. And one definition that we've looked at in the dictionary is about accepting it as inevitable. So I'm accepting being single, or is it inevitable that I'm going to be single for the rest of my life?
I think that there are waves. The moment you get out of a relationship, I think you are in resignation. I'm done. I'm not talking to no more men. I don't want to deal with this foolishness anymore. And then when you take your time and you actually stay single for a little bit, then you move into acceptance, where you're like, it's okay to be by myself. Honestly speaking, I don't think you should get into a relationship until you've gone through acceptance.
Oh,
Because
that's
if-
interesting.
Because you have to be okay being alone before you can be okay being a part of a relationship. That's just my opinion.
Okay, because a lot of people don't think of it that way. The whole idea of me wanting to be with someone is so that I am not alone. And therefore, I'm not accepting the fact that I am alone. And I'm not feeling good about that either, because I don't want to be alone. I want to be married.
Yeah.
You know, so how can you accept and be okay with being alone if what you really want is to not be alone?
Well, I have to say, before this show started, I was not sure that I had accepted it, nor had I resigned. I still have hope. I'm not okay with it, but like Ruth said, I think it goes back to your spiritual walk. I believe God's in charge of my life. I believe that there is a purpose and a divine order in my life, and I am going through prolonged singleness, and it's to have me deal with issues in my life so that I don't take them into my marriage, so that I'm not bringing up stuff that should have been dealt with beforehand.
Exactly.
And I can see God's wisdom in it. I can see His glory in it, and I'm thankful for it. Acceptance and resignation, though, I don't know that those are the words to describe where I am.
Neither one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with you. When you get to a point where you really trust God, and it takes me to Jeremiah 29:11. Really, taking that but it has to be a daily thing. It
Angel.
like Angel said, sorry. She said it's a wave, because sometimes you can be low, sometimes you can be up. But you have to remind yourself as Christians that, you know what, remember who's in charge. He knows the plans that He has for you. It's so that you'll have a hope in the future. You can't give up on that. And for me, today I had to remind myself, you know what, God is doing this for a reason. I am single for a reason. I've got to accept it and be content and know that He's going to take care of me. He knows what it is that I need. And so for me, that just, it clears it up for me. So then I have acceptance, and I'm not resigning like, I give up, whatever, I'm just done.
Okay, so do we agree then that resignation is different from acceptance? Even though when you look in the dictionary, they have crossing or very similar definitions. There's not one definition for either word. But
And opposites too.
And opposites too, right. But Angel and I had a little pre-conversation earlier, and what were you saying about resignation now?
Resignation, to me, or what I read in Webster's actually, was giving oneself over to whatever the situation was.
Okay.
In my understanding, resignation would be something along the lines of perhaps being a nun. You've made a conscious decision to give over your singleness. That's resignation.
Okay.
It's not necessarily a negative connotation. It's just a conscious decision to be single. But acceptance has the definition of to endure in the process. So endurance is, you know you're going through something hard, but you've decided not to complain about it in the midst of it. That's acceptance. True acceptance comes when you really want to be with someone, but you've decided, Lord, I'm going to let you take care of it, and I'm not going to complain in the midst of this.
Okay, we have to take a break right now on that note. That was a powerful note, though, because, thinking of resignation as only being negative, it doesn't necessarily have to be that. But when we come back, we're going to keep breaking it down a little bit more, so stay with us.
1 in 4 households.
40% of all women have never been married.
Wait! Don't get way down in gloomy facts. Download this new ebook by Patrice Thomas Conwell. Follow her journey to accept and appreciate the single life. Nobody ever told me I might not get married. One Woman's Journey to Acceptance. Available at these retailers and more. So welcome back as we keep talking about acceptance versus resignation. And before we ended the first segment, Angel was saying that resignation doesn't necessarily have to be negative. It's about giving yourself over to the situation as it is. Whereas acceptance is more about, and correct me if I'm wrong, acceptance is more about enduring what you're in, even though you may want to be in a different situation. How does everybody think? What do you think about that difference between the two?
I thought that was an awesome point. And before that, I would have to say, the difference between acceptance and resignation, because I always thought of resignation as being a negative thing, had more to do with intent. I think your intent and where you're coming from, more than your actions probably, are what matters. But I think that was an excellent point.
Also, I think that we have to see what is the focus of our life. If the focus of, I say my life, if the focus of my life is getting married up to this age, to the age, if that doesn't happen, then I may be very
resigned.
I may be angry as a result of that because things didn't go my way. But if my focus is what is mainly the dream of God for my life, and if I get busy doing and take my focus on the negative part and focus on the positive side of that situation, when I least expect, God will bring that man that He has for me because He wants to see me happy. And He knows what is the kind of person that will make me happy. He knows my personality. He knows His personality. It could be that He's taking His time to prepare me for that man because it could be that at this moment I would not be a good wife for him. It's not only his problem, it could be my problem too. So if I keep busy on the call that God has for my life, when I least expect, the man will show up.
Amen.
Okay, now that
That's
takes us
great.
down a different direction. Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No. That's a good direction because it kind of gives us a segue into then if you are accepting. To me, accepting is being content where you are, but you still have hope. Because remember, we're talking about wanting to be married, right? And so you still have the hope. With resignation, if we're looking at it from the negative standpoint, you don't have any more hope. You're resigned to this is how it's going to be. So then what happens? You were talking about it's about your focus, right? So if I'm accepting and I'm focused on what God wants me to be doing, I'm not focused on getting married. And therefore, what's happening with all the decisions that you're making, even the decisions about who you're dating or who you spend more time with or whatever the case may be, how does acceptance help you in your decision making versus resignation help you in your decision making? Do you see any difference with that?
Well, for me, I think just talking about my relationships with men specifically, when I am in an accepting spirit of my singleness, I am not looking for a husband. I am looking for a friend. And it takes the pressure off because you can actually hang out with someone without wondering, what you're supposed to be doing or how you're supposed to be acting or can I take a big, huge bite out of the sub in front of him? It's not about that anymore.
Eat the sub in front of him.
It's just not about those things anymore because I'm okay. I'm fine with where I am. And if something comes of this, great. But in the meantime, we can just be friends.
Okay.
And it's okay to do that. But it doesn't feel that way when you're, in my opinion, when I'm resigned because then I'm wondering, well, is he maybe the one? Did you bring him into my life, Lord? Do I need to ask for extra things from you to decide whether or not I want
signs?
Too many questions.
Give me a sign.
Too many questions. I love acceptance. Acceptance, though it is a hard road, it is an easier road in that the same thing as giving over your burdens to God. It's still a burden. You're still carrying, but you're taking His burden instead of your own.
Okay.
I think I would say very short. If somebody wants to find, if a lady wants to meet this man, she should focus on acceptance and not resignation, because it would be a resignation more like keep people away from me because my attitude is going to be very different.
Right, that's true. Your attitude is different, and you close yourself off. You're not open to new situations or meeting new people, or
You said something in your book about that. It got to a point in your life you said, "Oh Lord," and then things changed.
well, to me, because if you don't accept, then as Angel was talking about, you run the risk of becoming desperate. And if it's not fitting in your timetable and I have to make it fit my timetable, then I get desperate. And to me, when you're desperate, you make bad decisions or poor decisions, even of the people that you choose to hang out.
And you think I can handle that, or I can put up with that, or I can change that.
That's a big one now for women. I can change that. I will love so hard, or I'll look so good that, for me, he'll change. And unfortunately, we don't realize that that rarely works, if ever, that we can't change anybody. So is it fair to even have this discussion in today's society, with reality saying 1 in 4 households are single and not by choice, that 40% of all women have never married, a large percentage of that being African American? I mean, we have these statistics that are out there about reality. And so is it fair to say you need to start a process of accepting your singleness, and possibly that might not be in your destiny to be married? I mean, is it fair, or should we not?
Well, then that's what you said. Everybody's saying this. The statistics are saying that. I want you to know what the Word of God says.
Amen.
That's where we have to go, because God does not change. The principles, His love, His compassion, His care is standing forever. He's not different than He was when He created us, when He creates the needs that we have. And if we have to wait longer, He takes care of all our needs, even that need too, all the needs. So it goes to what God says, not what society says, not what people say. That's what God says is our relationship with God. Do we trust Him or not?
Does that suggest then, because there are other people who will say, there's someone for everyone. If you want to be married, just ask God and you'll get married.
Well, I think that's true. However, I think God prepares us for that someone. 10 years ago, I was a completely different person. I was so dysfunctional. I was fixing everyone I came across. And I was focusing on others because I didn't want to focus on me. And so God has had to take me through a path of focusing on Mindy, because there's a lot of work that needed to be done. And so to me, I'm looking at acceptance not as necessarily given up, but as self-improvement. A time to spend alone with God, to have Him polish me and rough out those edges, and to prepare me. And that would, in my mind, that will lead to a much better marriage, because there's going to be a lot of rough things that I'm not having to take in there. I've already processed it.
Right.
And so, I think the statistics are that way, because in our society, a lot of times, we are quick to point fingers instead of raising our hand and say, hey, that was me. I mean, there's not that many single people because we're, being awesome at marriage.
Okay. Well, we're going to keep it up. We have to take another break, and when we come back, we'll continue the discussion, but we'll have an expert among us who can actually give us some real tips about this whole discussion on acceptance and resignation. So stay with us. Welcome back. And with us now is our resident expert, Dr. Renee. Dr. Renee is a psychologist, and she's also a licensed marriage and family therapist. And we are so glad to have you.
It's always good to be here.
You've heard the discussion going on about acceptance versus resignation, so we need you to weigh in and let us know where we were on the path or where we were getting off a little bit.
Oh, it was a wonderful discussion. When I looked at your book, there's a word there that should go in with that: resignation, contentment, all of the words that we were talking about, and that's an appreciation. And I think that needs to be talked just a little bit, because when we resign ourselves, even though I loved how you said that, because resignation can be a positive, but when we think of resignation, we think of, I like to say, comparing ourselves. Well, I'm never going to get married, because if they could get married then and I didn't, then something's wrong with me, this, that, and the other. It can be a lot of different things. And then when we think of acceptance, and that's a positive, but usually we use that in a negative way as well. You know, I'm accepting my circumstances, but I don't want to stay content in it. I don't want to get used to it, you know. But there's this word there, appreciation. And that was what I got from that chapter, from your book, was an appreciation of where you are right now. You need to be able to appreciate it. And whenever God moves you to another position in life, you appreciate that position. But I think sometimes we don't appreciate our singleness and all that it brings and all that God is trying to teach us. And if we do, and when we find ourselves wavering in these other areas, we need to look and say, why am I doing that? And usually it comes from a comparison of something. Usually we see some kind of great chick flick on television and be like, you know, why couldn't that be me? Yes, you know, I am so the one, or whatever, or you know,
or she didn't really look that good.
Right,
she don't look like me.
That's
I'm all put together.
That's it. And I've got all this going on. How did she get? And so when we start doing that, that's when we lose our appreciation for our singleness. So I wanted to bring that up. The next part about that is the Bible does say it's not good for man to be alone. And so I feel like, because there are people in the world, I don't see them very many, but there are, who really do not want to be married. And I feel like those people, God will not force marriage on them, because that's not what they want. But those that want it, he put those desires there, and he will fulfill those desires. As I was listening to those statistics, it's so funny, because yes, there are 1 in 4 who are single homes, but there's almost 60% marriage a year and almost 60% divorce. So somebody's getting married. Okay, there's plenty of people getting married. The thing of it is that we all could be married. But because you have purposed your heart toward God, that puts it in a whole different perspective. And I'm not just getting anybody, and I'm not just accepting anything, and I'm not just going to put myself in any kind of a situation and hope that God's going to work it out. No, because I made a covenant with him, then I'm going to have an appreciation. I'm going to have an acceptance. I'm going to have a contentment, because there's something more that I want from marriage than just a man.
Okay, so how do you, as a Christian man and woman, how do you move yourself to that appreciation for being single when you want to be married? Yes. I mean, isn't that a process too, in and of itself?
Yes, it is. It is. And I think it was my sister here, Mindy. Yes, who talked about being what you needed to be for yourself now and working on yourself now. And if you have, you know, I am a proponent of the list, you know, okay, because I'm visual, and so I got to see, you know, and I hold that list up to God, and I say, okay, God, is this who, you know, what needs to be on the list? And once I do that, then I've got to be something to present too on somebody's list as well. And so for me, I feel like If I'm not in that marriage position, then God is trying to do a great thing in me first so that I have something to present. And so that will help me to toward that appreciation. It's when I say, okay, God, you have got something so great and so fabulous for just perfect me. I have got to be what I need to be for that man. So when he sees me, he sees this. Yes. So you are like when Jacob saw Rebecca, and and she saw him, and he cried. I'm like, wow, that's some real serious stuff right there. Okay. Yes. And he literally worked 14 years for that woman. That took a special woman. It wasn't just that man. That took some kind of a woman. And she had to be cultivated that way. So when I say, God, you love me so much, you're not putting me with anybody right now. You're working this out in me so that I will be the woman that I need to be for the man.
So,
you will grow toward appreciation.
So we're talking about the change in focus.
Amen.
A change in focus to where you can see the appreciation for what God is taking the time to do in you in order to prepare you for whatever he has in store. As usual, Dr. Renee puts it on the line and gives us a word each time. And now, of course, we want to see what the guys have to say. Is acceptance and resignation the same thing to you?
Okay. Acceptance is something that you receive that you want, that you're fine with, and the other part is just totally opposite. It's where you kind of give up or kind of reject something.
I think people take singleness as a resignation when really singleness is a gift. Because it's a gift, it's preparing you for marriage. People tend to make mistakes by jumping into a quick relationship. But singleness is your part in your preparation to be in a relationship.
It's been my experience when people are single for a long time. Generally, it's because they're accepting it. There's not very many people that resign themselves to being single because they can't find anyone. Because there is someone out there for everyone, regardless of what they look like or how they act. There's going to be someone that's going to accept them for who they are.
You accepting to be single is you saying, I'm comfortable with being single. I'm comfortable with being myself. I think resignation usually comes a lot from people who don't always find what they're looking for. They might be looking for a certain type of person, or they have a bad relationship. So resignation ends up coming to as a point of I'm done with relationships. I don't want to be in a relationship anymore. I can't find nobody who's guys are this or girls are that. So I think those are the two main differences between resignation and acceptance.
Okay. So you've heard what the guys had to say. You've heard what we had to say, and hopefully you've come to some understanding about acceptance versus resignation. And now the new word that we leave with is appreciation. Can you appreciate your singleness for the time that it's giving you for God to make you the person he wants you to be? So look, we're out of time. I hate that, but it gives you another chance to join us the next time when we talk about, did God drop the ball? We're really going to unpack this whole idea about God and what he's doing for us. Look, leave us messages on Facebook, Patty Conwell, tweet us at Patty Conwell, or leave messages at the bottom of the YouTube and let us know what you think about what we've talked about today. And again, I want to thank Sin Shay's Restaurant for letting us film here, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Baby doll was in the dollhouse, Bobby Kim, how it's supposed to be. But it seems like something's missing from the equation, you and me. Tell me, why am I not having fun in this game we play? Well, if you're tired of trying to fight the fantasy, you need to hear what I have to say. Okay, get your dancing shoes on, we're gonna have some fun today. Hey, hey, sing